Let's play around with some schemas. We'll create a database or two and also some tables. Here I have the administrative screen open, and I can just go to add a database here in the tables window. And I can also add a table. And just like that, I have a database named music, I have a table named artists, and I have another one now called invoices. Now I don't need to accept the defaults. Specifically, RethinkDB will create an ID automatically for my document called ID. If I didn't want that, I could specify a different key here. Now take a look at the toggle at the very bottom here, the one that says acknowledge writes only when written to disk. This is known as hard durability. And all tables in RethinkDB have hard durability by default. You have to switch it off. What this means is when you insert some data, it'll take a little bit longer for RethinkDB to respond to you, so inserts can slow down. If you want to speed things up, you can turn hard durability off. In other words, setting it to soft. Now let's head over to the Data Explorer. This is where we get to play with the data that's in our database. I don't have any just yet, but maybe we can add some and goof around. First thing to notice is we have code completion. This is one thing I absolutely love about RethinkDB. It makes learning REQL, the query language, really easy. All these little pop-ups tell you the things that you can do with the various entries that you have. Here, I'm just going to tell it to list all the tables in my database. And when I hit run, I can see a JSON view down below. It's just an array of strings, artists, and invoices. I can switch this over to a table view if I want, and there we go. One thing I really appreciate working with the Data Explorer is the way that it intelligently handles its code completion. Here it knows I'm working with a table, and so it's going to pop up all the choices that I have for working with a table query. And you can see all the different choices that we will get to more later on. You've probably been noticing that I've been typing R dot a lot, and R is the root namespace for working with RethinkDB. There's a number of things on here. There's conversions, there's root level objects, there's commands like do, there's things where you want to specify a literal, you can work with dates, but most often you'll just be specifying what to do with the database. In this case, if you want to drop one, like I just did, you can do that. And look at this. This is one of the really neat things about working with RethinkDB. It tells you what just happened. DB's dropped, tables dropped 2. It's telling us the old value. That was the name of the database, music, and the new value is null, meaning it's not there. And if we head over to our tables window here and take a look, yep, it's not there. It's all gone. So you don't have to do everything through the admin screen. You can do it all right here in the Data Explorer. Let's create our database again, and I'll use r.dbcreate. And then there we go. You can see the changes down below. DB's created 1, and the next thing I can do here is I can actually create a table too. Table create and artists. It's that simple. REQL is pretty simple stuff. There's just a few things you got to learn. Okay, so I'm creating my tables here, artists and invoices, and I've got my new database, music. Let's head back over to the tables window, and there it is, music database and the artists and invoices tables. Now let's switch gears a little bit, and I want to show you one of the best things about REQL and working with RethinkDB. This is the directory that I've been working in. As you can see, I just have my data directory for my database. Let's make a directory for a node application. I'll call it app. And using npm, I'll initialize our application using npm init. And in here, I'll just kind of scoot on down through all of this stuff. And I gotta guess leave my name in here as the author. Why not? Yep, that looks pretty good. Okay, so now that we have a package.json, we can install the RethinkDB driver. And we can do this by just saying npm install rethinkdb --save. Now you might be wondering, Rob, why are you doing this? Why are we looking at Node? Aren't we supposed to be working with RethinkDB? And yes, of course we are. However, when it comes to working with databases and booting them up, most of the time you're probably going to be working with some kind of bootstrap file. That's what I'm creating here. I'm using the Atom text editor, and I wanted to show you how simple it is to use the RethinkDB driver to do some of the basic schema manipulations that you're going to need to do. Here, I'm just using the driver to connect to our local database, and notice the syntax. It almost directly mirrors what I wrote in the Data Explorer. Here, I'm just using r.dbcreate, our music database, and then I'm telling it to run, and I'm passing the live connection that was handed to us from the connect function above. This is the beginnings of our database bootstrap file for our project. And when you're working with RethinkDB, or any database really, you're probably going to have a bootstrap file like this. So when team members come on the project, they can get up and running quickly. Speaking of, if we run this using the Atoms runner, you can see, boom, we have a new database that was created for us against our local RethinkDB server. The next step, of course, is to be able to install the tables that we'll be using. For this, I want to be able to execute things in step in an asynchronous way. So I'll use an asynchronous manager for this. I could use eventing and a bunch of other things, but I find sometimes just using the async library is the easiest possible thing. So I'll reference async above. And then down below here, I'll create a few methods for working with our database. In fact, let's kind of orchestrate this a little bit better. Rather than calling r.connect in line, I think I'm going to try and make things a little bit better on the eyes. And so here I have createDB, and I also have createTable. Let's move our connection inside of the createDB function, and then we'll just call next once that's finished. All right, well, as exciting as this might be, I'm not going to make you watch me type this all out. So let's skip ahead a little bit, and you can see a fairly typical bootstrap file, creating the database, and then I have a createTable function, and then down below here, I am using async.map. That's going to call a function multiple times, depending on what values you have in the array. So in our array here, I have two string values, artists and invoices. That's going to call createTable multiple times and pass the name of our tables in. Finally, down below here, I'm using async one more time, telling it to create the database first, and then call createTables. All right, so let's go back to the web interface, and you can see I have got no databases, no tables, nothing in our local server. They're all gone. So using the Atom runner that I've installed, it's the Atom runner package, and I run this, and boom, everything has run pretty well, looks like. Database was created, looks like the tables were created. I got an array of config changes back. Let's head it back over to the admin screen, and just like that, it's updated itself. I don't have to refresh. This thing is aware of the database. And if it sees any changes, like when you saw before, the server goes offline, or when a table is added, or any other information that we need to know about, the admin screen will update itself.